Welcome back to the Docker File Options section of the Getting Started with Docker course. In this lesson, we're going to be looking at the copy command. This is another command we've already seen before. So let's look at it. This is the copy command right here. In our documentation, if we look down here, we'll go to where the copy section is. And there's a number of different options here. So let's start with the basics, which is actually what we did. There's copy, and then you give it the source, and you give it the destination. So the source is based upon where you are in the current directory, is that dot. So that current directory /HTML/ copy everything in there to, and the destination. In our case, since we're using a Linux machine, we have the user/local/apache2/htdocs folder. So we copy everything from inside the HTML folder to be inside the htdocs folder on our image. So that's what the copy is doing. Copy, and then source and destination. That's the basics. Now there are some things we can do to extend this and make it a little bit more full-featured if we need to. For example, we have the idea of the star. So this adds all the files starting with HOM. So HOM star means all the files that start with HOM. So home would be one, hominid would be another, and so on. Now destination, again, is going to be an absolute path or relative path, just like the source is. And then it just tells you which directory to copy into. Note here they're using the pound sign. This indicates a comment. So this comment right here is not part of the Docker file itself as far as the commands go. It's just a comment. So there's a number of different things we can do here to filter out, limit, or change what files go where. And you're probably familiar with how to do those type of things on your own machine. And this isn't much different. The only difference is that you'll have Linux file paths if you're on Windows, even though you have a Windows machine. Since your image, like right here, this image was Linux, not Windows. So the Linux path would apply. Now there are some things like owner, so that's what a CHOWN or the change owner stands for, where we're changing the owner to be something different, and that might be something specific to your circumstance, but for the most part, you probably won't be doing that. But here's one you probably will be using, and this is the -- from, and then you either give it a name or an index. Now remember up here we said we call this image base. So whatever we do here then becomes base. Well, if down here we have from, and let's call it just a totally different image. So HTTPD, we're use the latest, so therefore we're not going to have a tag. We'll call this as final. We could say copy and then specify a from. So this from up here, let's just look at an example up at the top here. Actually, it's not up there. Well, that's okay. We'll come back down to where the from is in documentation, and I'll build it out for you. So instead of just saying copy from a local file like we did here, and then to a destination, we could say, actually, I want you to copy -- from equals base. So instead of copying from local, I want you to copy from this resulting image. So copy from base, and then we're going to give it the path. So I could say /usr/ like so, and that's where we copied all these files. We copy them into this location in base. Well, I could take those and I could put them somewhere else. Let's just say /app. So now I have copied from one location to a different location. But neither location is my machine. I've copied from this resulting image as a source, and I've put it somewhere else in the destination. And these can be different images. They don't have to be the same HTTPD, which is why I chose a different version of it. Now, the place you'll see this a lot is when you start doing work on a build process. So this first section may be building your application, but you don't want to have all those extra files that come along with a build process, like the actual, let's just say, a C# project. You don't want the CS proj file. You don't want to have anything but what's inside the bin directory, let's say, or the publish directory. Well, what you can do is do the build in one image, and then in another image, you can, from the build image, grab the published files and put them into the correct folder in your release image. That way the release image just has your built project. It doesn't have all the stuff that went along with it. So it doesn't have your source code, for example. One of those is a run command, and the other is the add command. Now, add, we haven't touched on, and we won't do a full video on add because add is not as common. It was actually kind of the original ways to add files, but it had some bugs in it, and it wasn't as easy to use as copy is. But add, if we look up here, it does pretty much the same thing. It's just not something we necessarily use as often. So there are some quirks to it and how it works, but it does similar things to what copy does. So the three common commands that will create a layer that then you have to work with using as a base for something else are run, copy, and add. We've looked at copy and we've kind of touched on add. We'll look at run in a future video, but just know those are the three that actually create a new image, which is what we have here. Okay, so the very basics are that with the copy command, you can copy from one location and put it in a location inside of your image. If you want to copy from, instead of your local machine, but copy from a different image, then you use the from and specify which image you want to use. And then you give the from and the two locations, or the source and the destination locations. And that's really all there is to copy for 98% of all cases. Like I said, I pointed out there's a couple things with changing the owner and other things you can do with copy, but for the most part, those are the important things to note. So let's end the video here. We're going to move on to our next option for the Docker file in our next video.